Hello and welcome back to The Dark Side of Science, a podcast dedicated to all mysteries, secrets and wonders that the universe hides from us. Today I am going to unveil the biggest hidden and horrifying experiment in the Area 51. The Abigail Project. The nature of this project is extremely disturbing. The authenticity of this topic is debatable, but no records can be found regarding this sinister project. The Abigail Project surrounds the rather tragic but horrifying story of a youthful lady within the 1940s. General Albert Wester, a respected military commander stationed at the Area 51 facility, handed over his daughter, Abigail Wester, to a research division pursuing the idea of human modification designed purposefully for warfare. The experiment in which Abigail took in was horrifying. In my opinion, I cannot believe how science led to such an extreme that a father gave his own daughter to an experiment. It is simply terrifying and unimaginable how someone's curiosity to discover something ended in such a horrendous way. But as I said before in this channel, you will get to know the truth about how science does have a dark side if it is taken to an extreme. And as the phrase say, any extreme is bad, you may see that this project is a clear example. After tests of numerous serums, Abigail's skin began distorting and deforming, teeth getting to be dilapidated, and facial bone structure mutating so badly that she was no longer recognizable. Day by day, Abigail became less and less human. Albert Wester was overwhelmed by the resulting monster, which in the long run driven to his suicide. After being neglected, Abigail assaulted two researchers, which led to a full-scale quarantine of the West Wing of Area 51. The scariest part is, the West Wing is still under quarantine and not a single human being has ever been given access to enter the West Wing. To go in depth about this project, I will tell you the background of the whole event. In 1943, there was a scientist named Albert Weston who was working for the US Army at a secret Air Force military base set up in territory called Area 51. Albert was obsessed with developing the perfect soldier, like Captain America. Therefore, he asked for volunteers for this experiment, but most people were not willing to donate their bodies for the experiment. In addition to that, the one who gave in to the experiment must be fully trusted to prevent the discoveries from falling into enemy hands, so he decided that the right person for this job would be his own daughter. This was the reason why the scientist started the Abigail Project. However, shortly after the experiment began, the scientist's colleagues advised him to stop. Abigail's face began to deform, her teeth began to grow disproportionately, her hair began to fall out, and her skin began to wrinkle. Abigail became a freak. Even so, the scientist did not give up. He was willing to continue until the last consequences, because he knew that if he stopped, Abigail would die. And contrary to what you may be thinking, Albert loved his daughter. Although in my opinion I would say that could not be the reality of a loving father, who would actually sacrifice their own daughter for a scientific research. How could he keep on doing it? If I was in his shoes at that precise moment, I would regret it so badly and would have stopped the project, even though if it meant that she could die, it would be better to stop her from suffering more. According to reports from some employees, they had to bring a large amount of food to a huge being that was caged, and that, at times, They saw Albert spend hours talking and even crying near the cage. Abigail had completely lost her mind. She was nearly 10 feet tall, her broad bones retaining only a bit of skin. Without her awareness, she was now just a wild animal. Everyone involved in the experiment claimed the operation was a failure, but Albert still believed it could work and refused at all costs to end Abigail's life, as most of his colleagues had suggested. 2 years after Abigail became unrecognizable, Albert finally gave up that she would really work. He ended up taking his own life, but first he left a letter for his companions, begging them to save his daughter. What I think of this event in specific is that her father was not brave enough to keep on and find a solution, which it is understandable, but I would absolutely not say it was the correct thing to do. This was an awful experiment that at first I could not believe until I researched more and finally was convinced. This is one of the reasons why I did this podcast. I wanted to show you how dangerous and dreadful science can become in the wrong hands. Anyways, keeping up with this event. With Albert dead, the army was unwilling to continue spending money trying to get Abigail back to normal, but they complied with Albert's request. They wouldn't kill her, they'd let hunger do that. The employees stopped preparing food for the creature, which in my point of view was the worst decision ever. As when a living creature gets hungry, it is more than obvious it would do anything for food and survival. What the army had done was a terrific mistake and very mean from their part, as starving to death surely hurts more than just giving the creature something like a medicine to die. This was torture. The first night, the staff heard Abigail screaming and howling. Somehow, she ended up running away and killing 2 guards, but she just wanted to eat. To prevent further deaths, the US government decided to seal off the entire area where Abigail was located. And as I mentioned before, the West Wing is still under quarantine and not a single human being has ever been given access to enter there. In conclusion, at the end I bet that the scientist Albert wanted that his daughter to come back to normal, and probably only did all of this due to a wish he wanted to accomplish in science history no matter what. But the consequences were bigger than he thought. In the actuality, there is no more information if Abigail is alive, but I certainly do not think she was able to survive with no food, and plus it was too expensive to keep her living. So a short recap about what we have discovered in this new episode is how the Abigail project took such a horrible turn that led to a horrible failure, such that the girl became into a monster, and the scientist behind of all, which was her father, suicided due to his major mistake and regrets. That is how dark scientific experiments may turn out. And now that you know the truth, I hope you like this episode, as we were able to bring to light the terrific truth of a project in the Area 51.
Thank you for your attention.